We are live. Good to see you, my crypto friends. It's a pleasure to see you today. Today we're here with EOS Amsterdam. We're going to get into what sets them apart, what's new in EOS, what their block producer is offering specifically. And we've got Maas, we've got Rhett, and we've got Jetse, all from the EOS Amsterdam team. So let's first just get into who these guys are, because there's some interesting characters here. So why don't you start, Boy? How you doing, and what do you add to the team?
Well, I'm doing very fine, and we're very busy, of course, at the moment. But we really want to thank you for, let's say, allowing us to present ourselves here. I'm Maas. I am a father of two, and I'm let's say a builder of software. I really love let's say building let's say technology. I live in The Hague, and there's a small city let's say near Amsterdam. And I got involved in crypto in 2013, and they experienced the dip and say the low, the winter, and got really engaged essentially in 2017 because I was very let's say connected to the projects of Dan Larimer, and when he started essentially a new project that really engaged me more to essentially get into the space. And that's when we started essentially EOS Amsterdam to really start meetups, getting people together, discussing all these new topics, the governance, the arbitration, and everything that was really interesting for us. And we started running a node, and from there essentially, let's say we started let's say EOS Amsterdam.
That's great. Well, I think Dan brought a lot of us to this space with his vision, that overall vision of EOS. For me, just brought me deep into the crypto space, whereas before I was kind of not as passionate about it. So that's cool to hear that. How about you, Rhett?
Yeah, I have a history with crypto as well. Always loved technology. I studied computer science a long time ago. Did business administration as well, and I started a company in cybersecurity 20 years ago. And of course, a lot of cyber criminals use crypto to obfuscate their earnings. So we're in the dark web a lot. So we know a bunch of stuff about what's going on in that space. But it was always very technical, and I really got enthusiastic by the governance aspect of EOS, and also when you're out of the security world, you know about vulnerabilities and stuff, and so people talk about code is law. Then I think, have you ever looked at software code and the real world? So many things go wrong all the time. So when I learned about EOS, I immediately understood this guy understands what technology is, and of course, to implement it in the real world, we need to do some other things as well. Organize the governance around how do you update the software, how do you come to agreement in when there are new features and functions, etc., etc. So I really became very enthusiastic, and well, we always talk about the rabbit hole. I stepped in and got lost somewhere. I think.
Yeah, you fell down like the Alice in Wonderland style, and just continued all the way down, huh?
Yeah, all the way down.
So you're the security, focused on the security aspect, it sounds like, for the team, huh?
Yeah. I'm the entrepreneur, so my company provides 7 days a week, 24 hours a day operations. So that also solves the problem that many block producers, of course, have if they are in the beginning when people started their candidacy. There were a lot of small teams, and we have a serious business behind us. So we can offer what the community needs.
Perfect. Well, yeah, we'll dig into that a little bit. That's a good call. And Jetse, how about you?
Well, I'm a lawyer, so that's I have a slightly different background than the other guys. But I worked in IT law for the bigger part of my career, and I've always been involved in technology and innovation, and I'd love to work there. And when crypto and smart contracts came by, I was at South by Southwest in Austin, and people told me, and you should really go into this, because this is going to be the answer to about everything. And so actually, I did look into that, and I kept wondering, what is a smart contract? What does it add to the world I function in at this point in time? And I never really dug it. I didn't see the added value so much. That is until Rhett called me a couple of months ago and said, you have to look into this. And then I dived into EOS, and he said to me, actually, this is about a governed blockchain. We need someone that is used to work with rules. So, and I looked into it, and I kind of pushed all the buttons, and all the answers that came back just make me more enthusiastic about EOS. So I told yes, of course. I went head in first, and that's been for some months now, and it's been a wonderful experience. And I've contributed a lot in the Telegram channels, discussed about the Constitution. We even wrote their own version of it. So my role is legal, and that's pretty broad. And it has, I think, this is maybe the first tech company that really needs legal on board, because it's all about the law.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the legal is going to be important. So that's a good way to round out your guys' team there. So let's get into the block producer candidacy, because I think one of the most important questions is how do people vote for block producers, and what actually makes a good block producer, because we're feeling that out right now. So everyone has opinions. What are your guys' top 3 things that you think make a good block producer? And you guys go ahead.
Yeah, we always joke that we produce a little bit more rounded blocks. So a block producer cannot hurt himself when he touches the corners of the blocks. Of course, that's joking, but no. I mean, it is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, having an environment secured, operational, 24/7 secured, and it's all about. If you look at EOS, then this is a governed chain, so we will bump into all kinds of questions. So when we started the EOS Amsterdam adventure, we decided to have R3 on board. So I have a security background. I founded a company that is awarded Deloitte Fast 50 fast growth. So we will see a lot of growth in the future. We added Maas, very experienced, been in the test nets from the start. So we know the software inside out, and the legal aspect. So we don't want to have a block producer go bankrupt due to the fact that they have a bill of a lawyer that is enormous. No, we want this embedded in the block producer candidacy, and we really feel that some people got it. Our candidacy, EOS Amsterdam, this combination of entrepreneurial spirit, software development, a lawyer, and security in one package. We saw some big whales do a lot of research, and especially voting for us. I mean, we've been, it's now, what is it, 15 June, the mainnet is launched yesterday, and we have seen a bumpy ride with our candidacy. We started out in 27 or something, went up to 42, and then Wales basically adjusted us. They adjusted us back to 30, and then we're back to 42 again, and they adjusted us to 30 again, very surprisingly. And if you look at what they voted for, that's very interesting. They, in my opinion, really did their research and selected block producers that have had extensive experience in the test nets, and really offer something unique. It's not who has the biggest mouth and the most people twittering. No, it's looking at what we really need for EOS, and I think we need this combination, the combination that we provide.
Yeah, and that combination of the security, the entrepreneur, the coding, and the lawyer. I think I think the lawyer aspect is actually probably easy to overlook, because it only takes one legal issue, and all of a sudden all your funds are going to one place, and that that is something that can make a team really fragile, not having a lawyer on board. So that's it's an important point that I hadn't heard yet. So that's why we do these interviews. So that's great to know.
And of course, I mean, you have to have a geographically dispersed infrastructure, and you don't only look at continents, for example. You have to look at how many people live there, how strong is the region developed. So of course we need somebody in Africa, but we don't need anybody in Australia. It's only 27 people, 27 million people. We need people in the European Union. Right now we only have one candidate in the 21, EOS Sweden. I think we need more. It's the second biggest economy in the world. It's bigger than the US, European Union. We have people in UK, but that's after Brexit. It's a small country. So yeah, I think we need a good geographically dispersed infrastructure. South America is there, North America is there, China is dominant. So, and Europe is a little bit lacking behind.
Is there a tool for people when they're voting to be able to see a layout of the top 21 block producers and where they are located?
Yeah, people have made some pictures on it. Of course, it's very dynamic. One day is this, and second day is that. We only had 1 day of mainnet launch, so I think we'll put some extra. And if you research a bit, of course, this is a YouTube channel, so every day is different. Mm-hmm. But if you see on Twitter, there's a lot of information, good information on block producers on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. And it right now it takes a lot of research to know who the block producers are, and then this decision of how to diversify. Personally, you think about all the different ways that you want to see diversification, and then you have to somehow do the research to put your votes in those spaces, because there's not only the location diversification, but there's also the different skill sets that each BP offers. So it gets complicated really quickly. It's a full-time job trying to figure out who to vote for as block producers. So so I have a question. What do you guys think, kind of what surprised you the most so far since the launch, since we've actually been live? What's been the most surprising thing that EOS has popped up for you?
Yeah, we saw, of course, the graphs now with the whales dominating it. That included some surprises. You very clearly see companies owned by the same company, because the wallets that were used to vote for all of them, that was clear, especially when EOS Mars Fly to Mars came along. That was a big surprise. I think everybody was very busy, so I didn't see a lot of I see a lot of discussions on Telegram channels, but we didn't see like formal reactions. But because for me, it feels like an invader in our community. I have no idea who they are. I haven't seen any updates for that, but I could have missed it. But announcing your candidacy and putting out a message on Twitter can be 5 minutes. I mean, this was there was no website, there was nothing. There was no Twitter account, there was no publication that hi there, we're new, this is us. No, it feels like they're still very anonymous. Maybe they really are. I haven't researched it. Boy, did you bump into anything on that?
No, I have not really bumped into any let's say information that identified the party. But what was my most, let's say, because we were pretty well prepared, of course, for the launch. So our infrastructure was ready to essentially go in any scenario. But what was really surprising to us is that we were just talking, yeah, we were like working, and we were just preparing some things for our, let's say, our new wallet that we are going to release in the coming weeks. And then suddenly, boom, we were live. I saw this message on Skype, boom, we're live. And so we were like, this will take another 3 days. And suddenly, boom, like the last 5% was just added. Yeah, that was really amazing. So everybody was really like, whoa, and so we went all on the Hangouts, like celebrating. So it is just, it's such an amazing, let's say, community to be part of, and just it's just such a ride. It's let's say I'll advise everybody just to become a blog producer and to just experience that you launch. It's just amazing. So that's really surprising, and I believe another thing what surprised me is that because we didn't add that because it was a very good story. Let's say Rhett told about our principles. I want to add one thing to that, and there's also, let's say, I believe that a blog producer also essentially needs to protect their community. So they have two very important roles. And one is an ambassador function. So for example, I'm just got off with a call from the Guarda wallet, and they want to integrate with EOS, right? So we need to facilitate this. A blog producer should help them to speed this process as much as possible up, so that the token value increases and that everybody can use, let's say, a very, very good wallet. And the other part is essentially protecting our token holders, right? Because in a call, let's say a few days back, we suddenly heard that some people were, let's say, scammed on a phishing site by generating false private keys. So that's also a very important role we have to have as blog producers to really dig into the ground and start building the tools to essentially work as a network, right? Like a blog producer network to really be fast and really be efficient in essentially capturing or holding or freezing these tokens, so that they cannot leave the chain. Because now, for example, we all thought we have still a few days to help them, and suddenly, boom, the chain is live, right? So that's you really have to be very proactive, right? So proactive is also you have to really feel what's necessary before it happens. So those are, let's say, a few points I want to add to what Rhett told perfectly.
Yeah, and I really like that idea of block producers being some sort of protection for the community, like they're there to help people, and that's one of the failings sometimes of big government, is that people want government because they want this protection from bad things that could possibly happen, but then that overreaches and kind of puts a wet blanket on a lot of things. So but the protection aspect of governance is one of the most important. That's what big communities need and want. So that I like to hear you guys say that. That's
so just to give a little example on this. So last night, after the launch, I came home, right, after like celebrating a little bit, and then let's say a token holder sent me a mail, right, and he sent me, listen, he lost his coins, right, by this process, and he said, okay, could you help us? And then so I answered him, and I get this mail back, and he said just one small sentence, and I believe that everybody that has been connected to EOS also experienced this, and that he says, I'm having so he lost money, right? And he said, okay, that's a wonderful help by the 911 group, which we are also part of, who's helping him. And he says, what a trip! Yeah, I'm having fun with all this drama. EOS is an amazing community coin, right? So he's lost money, but he has never been helped before. Let's say in such a way.
Yeah.
Very different from the BTC and Ether I've been using for years. So that really, I think, let's say, captures, also our experience about this community. It's not, let's say, this cold mechanic, let's say, hard banking transaction system. No, it's like soft, right? It's rounded. It's like a community. It's governed. It's a group of people, helping each other. And this is an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling to be part of.
It is, and I think a lot of people have stories like that. That it connects people to EOS really strongly. One of my friends that I finally got into cryptocurrency after years of begging him, like, come on. Yeah. He comes in, and then I get him through the steps to buy EOS. And then when he's registering in his wallet, he sends EOS to an ETH contract to act, because he thought instead of registering, he tried to buy through the smart contract into the ICO. But anyway, he lost his tokens. So then he comes to me like the first time he ever got into crypto, and I was like, thank God it's EOS, because he's been working with the basically working with the governance to try to get those back. So and he will eventually. And that safety net's really important when we talk about, when you're bringing friends and family into something. You don't want to, you don't want it to get messed up and have them lose tokens. You want it to be a little bit more friendly, at least. It's already. So, yeah.
It looks like internet 30 years ago, 25 years ago. When was it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the time we had to configure dial-up modems. I mean, oh my God, so many things went wrong. It's the same type or same era that we still need user friendliness all over the place, and the human measurement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what other projects you guys working on? I heard you mention that you're helping out with the 911 channel. And what else you guys up to?
Well, that's very interesting, because I have to say we have some really good security insights, right? Of, let's say, more than the combined 40 years of experience, and so I'm a builder, right? So I really love to craft software, and I've been doing this also for more than 20 years, right? And so what we notice is that the user interfaces still are a bit lacking, let's say, in the crypto space in general. So we are now focusing on developing, let's say, a new wallet, which has some really interesting security features built in. And this is not only, let's say, by essentially the wallet itself, right, but also in the way essentially people can sign transactions, but also in let's say, how we implement this essentially on the chain itself, right? So we really want to take such a position as a block producer to really protect our community and our token holders, also on a technical basis. And we are going to use paradigms, we have learned from the security industry for more than 20 years, and implemented those essentially on the EOS chain. And this is going to be what we believe is very valuable for the EOS community as a whole. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Where how far along are you guys on the wallet development?
Well, we are very far in the concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say development has started, and this is a unique feature. So what I will do, I will essentially bring out a video cast, of this development, right, on a daily basis, and we will just guide the whole community through the different processes which we use to essentially build this wallet. Right, so that means that we will have an open source wallet, and we have an open source repository where we will list all these screencasts, so that everybody can just essentially, when you have not, let's say, worked on the code before, you can just like take a bag of chips, and a Coke,
Mm-hmm.
You can sit and just watch essentially on let's say how this thing evolved. And so essentially, we are going to start this process essentially out of, let's say, next week.
Great. Yeah, that's going to be a huge tool. I know that's what a lot of people are hoping for as soon as possible is a quality, secure wallet. So that's great to hear you guys are working on that. That's good.
Yeah. Boy, can you explain a little bit about the studio, the analytics we're building?
Oh yeah, that is another thing. Yeah. So what we did is essentially, because Cesar, right? So one of the contributors on the big contributors on the GitHub repo, he developed this SQLDB plugin, which has just been released essentially, but it's not yet merged in the main code base. And we connected this on a node on a cluster. So that one is now essentially, let's say, feeding all this data from the chain, it's exporting to a database, and we're going to use this essentially to build up essentially a new kind of statistics. And now we're looking at essentially. So now we're looking at the data exactly. So what is being exported? We will probably have to change this a bit, because what we also want is to make some really nice visualizations. Let's say based on the data in the chain. So that's another project that we're working on. Yeah, and the idea is to essentially take the visualizations, take the wallet, and essentially merge them together, right? So you have one system, you know, where exactly what you just said. You can see the different block producers, you can see them producing. Yeah, you can see essentially, you know, maybe some of the characteristics. We're not sure about that yet. But so we really want to, let's say, dig in some, let's say, go a step further, right? Mm-hmm. in what's available right now.
And with those statistics, you're going to be doing, is that going to be specific to kind of block producers in the EOS blockchain? What type of things you envision that telling us when you start pulling those statistics?
Well, that is a very, very, very good question you asked. So what this can tell us over time is how essentially data evolves. Because the nice thing about the chain is, of course, that you can go from the genesis, like 0.0, and you have all these events, you know, that accumulate essentially to the state right now. And that's beautiful, of course, to mine, right? In a data sense. So for example, you can imagine voting, you know, taking place, you know, and you can see essentially the distribution, and then you can see over time essentially how different block producers move, you know, up and down in the ranking, and why this is, you know. You can visualize transactions, like the big transactions going on. You could have let's say monitoring services, right, to essentially monitor, let's say, certain kind of transactions on the chain. Which are very interesting. Because if you have a wallet, you know, maybe you want to know if I'm sending you, let's say, a few thousand coins, right? You would like to know this. So in a sense, you know, there's a lot of stuff. We are working on right now on bringing to the community.
Yeah, I have a security company for already 20 years, so we've resold a lot of products. So basically what we're now doing is all the features and functions that we've seen over time with authentication products, with digital vault technology. There's a lot of technology out there with very, very interesting features and functions that could ideally fit into this space. And the wallets I've seen, they're not bringing that to the table. So basically, we're building what I would like to use. I mean, we're annoyed by what's out there right now. I want to have all kinds of statistics, questions to be who are those investors in a block producer? Who is doing what funding? I mean, how is the uptime of not only their block producing activity but their website? How well are they operating the stuff? So you can do a lot of interesting statistics. Round trip times. I live in Europe. I want to see the round trip times to the block producing nodes. And so it really depends on where you are in the world to have a context of a good block producer as well. So
well, that'll be interesting to have all that data, because people will start using it and maybe finding what the most important aspects of block producers are. Whereas right now, without the data, there's nowhere to dig. Besides, it's very subjective. But with that data, people will be able to start digging and maybe finding which of these statistics is the most relevant or has the best correlation. That will be a huge tool. I'm really interested to see how that develops.
Wonderful. We will show you the screencast. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I'll have a chips in my Coke and we'll go through.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, we have a lot of other ideas. We hired extra staffing to produce that. So Sylvia couldn't be on the call, but she's one of our team members with, I don't know, 400 mobile app development experience. She's done program management for big tools, big applications, mobile applications. I mean, you can't find anybody with blockchain experience. So the second best thing we could find was mobile development. So we added somebody to the team with 20 years of experience in that field. So running a software development on mobile apps activities. So I think we have a good team of people now.
What's the crossover with mobile and blockchain? Is there some sort of is there some sort of thing that makes a mobile, this is for my own curiosity, mobile app developers work well with blockchain?
Well,
as opposed to just as a software engineer in general?
No, I think. I mean, we in the West do a lot with desktops, but in the rest of the world, a lot of people only have a mobile.
Yeah,
they don't even own a desktop. So, I mean, I think blockchain is not only for the Western world. It's predominantly maybe even for the rest of the world.
Yeah,
and I mean, we don't need new coins. We have a euro and a dollar that works pretty fine. And of course, we can have digital gold, but that's for store of value. And but there's a lot of countries that don't have a proper currency, and then this currency could really, crypto can solve those problems. So yeah, I think this world, mobile world and blockchain really needs to code together. I mean, if I meet people and they ask me to explain this blockchain, then the metaphor I typically use is that you want to put your signature somewhere. Mm-hmm. And now you put your signature when you buy a house or you do something important, but in the future, with an internet of value, you'll put your signature more often. If you like a tweet, if you like, that's basically also putting down a signature. And of course, you will do that a lot more with your mobile than you will do with your desktop. So I think out of functionality, you need your mobile to sign transactions.
Yeah, that's very apparent. That's definitely true. And to consider there's a whole half of the world that is only operating on a mobile. It seems like the only way to go. So interesting.
Yeah, and the software development languages and stuff like that, development cycles. I don't know, Boy, could you share your vision on that?
Sure, I can. But what was exactly the question?
So the mobile space in software development and the blockchain space in software development.
Yeah, it's different. So the mobile, let's say the mobile space is of course, let's say from a user experience, that's of course logical. It's much more restricted. So you have to really work on a small space. That also means that also, let's say, performance-wise, you have to be more careful when using mobiles. I personally come from a functional world, but that's more from let's say software developers who are watching. So I'm like a functional programmer. So from an interface perspective, UX perspective, I really like React Native and React, which is essentially geared towards that you can reuse essentially your desktop version and your mobile version of the code you produce. But essentially, let's say languages and other stuff, it's a lot of opinion, right? But how I see it, but it's not for the wide audience, of course, But you have these two big movements, and one of these movements is the imperative movement, and then you have the functional movement. And the nice thing about the functional movement, which essentially fits very very nice with React programming, let's say React from Facebook, is that essentially what you do is you take a data structure, and essentially it just explodes into an interface, right? So it essentially it becomes the interface. So if you change something on the data side, the interface changes immediately, let's say, with this little change. And the nice thing about this is that you don't have any state, let's say all over the place, right? And okay, sorry because I'm of course technical, so I'm really getting into just a little bit, maybe too much detail. But the nice thing about this is that you can really, let's say, speed up your development process. But to really zoom out and you think the difference between mobile and web. Say mobile is a complete different game in that sense. But for us, we are going to develop, let's say, mobile first, because we believe that essentially, let's say, a lot of users are wanting to engage mobile, on a mobile interface. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. I like to hear that, and I think that is the direction, even in the West, where people have a desktop as well. They're still on their mobile a lot of the time, and more activities going through the phone as opposed to having to sit at a desktop or even a laptop to get it done. So, yeah, I think that's a good take on it. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the voting, because you guys had mentioned the whales and the whales voting, and they have a decent influence. Are the whales who hold the EOS tokens, are they known so that block producers can, basically appeal to them and say, this is what we do, this is what we're good at? How do whales do their research, and are they known who they are?
What we believe is that the big token holders, right? They of course do their research, and they probably have a team of people or very experienced people involved, advising them how to move, of course, in this space. But the identity, let's say, of the major holders, right, is not that clear. Yeah? So we have some statistics and some graphs which shows essentially different kinds of addresses with different kinds of colors, from which you can derive, for example, the preference of some big holders and how they vote. And what we noticed when we're looking at it, me and Rhett were looking at it, let's say, by accident this morning, and he had some really, really good insights on this matter. Is that you see that, and that's really nice also to see, is that the big token holders also want to have, let's say, a very nice geographically dispersed chain, for example, or also want to have, let's say, a certain kind of balance, because we were, of course, we're afraid that at a certain point, essentially, some new, let's say, block producers would jump in, from which we didn't hear anything, right? But that has not happened, at least, except a flight to Mars. But it's such amazing, let's say, to see how people, how this alignment works, right? So I really have the feeling that we are doing some kind of experiment, which is until now really turns out very, very good, yeah. But maybe Rhett, you have something to add on it, because you looked a lot at the details, right, on the statistics.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had an extensive look at it because, of course, it's important to understand what the community wants, and that learned me in big chunks that there's a Chinese group, of course, and there's the Western world, and they react on each other in voting. So that's my opinion. That's my impression of the analytics I studied. And like I said, I'm curious what will happen. I mean, we're now I don't know, 30th place or something, and we're the second European Union candidate, and so I'm really hoping that we move up the ladder until the 21 be the super node or the producing block, and not the standby anymore. Because I think we would need at least 2, maybe even 3 European Union candidates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. That's good to hear that the large token holders are dispersing their votes how they are, and that makes sense because, like Boy was saying, the incentives continue to surprise me. I continue to think of, oh, what if this happens? And then the incentives so far have been built so well that they're correct, so that the ship kind of self-corrects. And even with people questioning what the big token holders are going to do, the incentives are there for them to act in their own best interest because they own a big part of this chain. They want it to do well, maybe more than anyone else. So yeah, I'm continually impressed by that.
Yeah, it's an amazing economic model.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the combination of tech and sociology and psychology and globalism, maybe even, and governance. It's a very interesting space to be active in.
Yeah, you can come from many different types of backgrounds and have your own niche within EOS, which is just, there's so much information, so much to study. It's a beautiful thing. I have an economics degree, which I thought I would never use again, and now it's starting to resurface, So I love it. It's so fun and interesting. And then also this just feeling generally of it's bigger picture than other projects, anything else I've ever worked on. I feel like I'm actually now working on something with EOS that could have a positive effect globally, which is a beautiful thing to be a part of. And I'm sure you guys share that vision. I've read Boy's Steam It article, and I see his vision there too. And I know you guys are on the same page with that. So yeah, it's a really cool thing to be a part of.
The thing is that if I might add something to this, is that I don't know why, but suddenly you get these intuitions, right? And when more and more in this space, I'm really starting to see if this experiment works, right? That could, let's say, create a precedent that essentially we could create a country, like a new country, that just is distributed over the whole world, right? And EOS could be, let's say, one of the tokens that helps this country to exist. And that means that anywhere you are in the world, if you are, let's say, somewhere in Africa or in China, or here in the West, and we could share, let's say, value, where we're all connected to suddenly the same value system, right? And I don't know, but I have a feeling, let's say, concepts will arise based on this model, that will allow massive amounts of people to essentially be aligned to some kind of guiding principles, right? And this is, yeah, let's say, I don't know, but it could be enabling technology, for these kinds of groups, and this could be very, very changing, right? Very revolutionary, yeah. And
yeah, when you consider the abundance that we've now developed because of technology, and there's enough abundance where a lot of people can be helped out, and with something like EOS, where there's these different ways that people can add value and be compensated for it. That's a game changer. It takes, it helps, helps people add value in their own way, and then be a part of some sort of global economy that they haven't been able to be a part of before.
Exactly. Yeah. Very well put. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if there's more apps that utilize it. I mean, that's, of course, we twittered about decentralized Uber, so Duber.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made one Twitter slide with I added the D in front of some brand names. You get very interesting words to do that. But then this if you do that brain exercise and you think of the decentralized Amazon and decentralized Nike, even decentralized Nike, you can design your own shoe and let it made in a factory somewhere. I mean, that could be very interesting. And I met somebody who spoke about 3D printing, and he said this blockchain will do what the 3D printing is doing to the transport sector and the manufacturing industry. And then I thought, wow, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. This also changes the world in a big way, and blockchain is doing big changes in other fields, and artificial intelligence does it in other fields, and virtual reality. So everything will come together, and we need to create something of a structure of value, and this can be the backbone. So this is amazing what you can build on top of this. That's why I mentioned the applications. It's really amazing what you can do if you start to think about what we can build on top of this.
Yeah, and with so much support from EOS itself and the VCs and the block producers trying to get these dApps built, there's a lot of incentives for these developers jump on board and start building those dApps. So we may see it happen fairly quickly. I'm hoping. I'm excited about the pace of everything right now.
Yeah, and then we look at block producers, but I think in 1 year nobody talks about block producers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're the people behind the scenes running this platform, and nobody's interested in them anymore. And now it's an important topic, but I think I even hope that we disappear and just do our job and provide value to the community. And then, okay, if somebody gets into trouble, then call the block producer, you know.
And I think that's something that your statistics are going to help bridge that gap as block producers, maybe a few months or a year, 2 years from now, fade into the background, and people are able to just kind of look at the statistics, see really what these block producers are providing in a real clear way. Then you guys can kind of fade in the background and people can vote on the raw data. That'll be an interesting transition. So it's good that you guys have the foresight to see that.
What also could be nice, but that's of course far-fetched in the future, that you have some kind of artificial intelligence, like selecting the block producers based on, say, response times, metrics, and all other kind of information. But it is also has been posted already in the community, of course. But it's a nice idea, right? So you have some objective, say, semi-objective algorithm, deciding what's best for the group.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of delegating your tokens to someone, you can basically pick an algorithm that votes the way that you have set up to pick block producers through the statistics. So,
yeah, we could already do this, by the way. It's a nice idea.
Yeah.
So, I think you just speak. Yeah.
Well, there we go. And EOS Amsterdam's breaking ground here.
Yeah.
Right. So we are getting closer to the end of our interview here. What have we kind of glossed over? Any big points that you guys would like to talk about as far as EOS Amsterdam goes, or EOS in general, to wind it down here?
We spoke about block producing. Like I mentioned, I expected it to disappear into the background. What Block One produced, the EOS software, was I think the start, and we need more front-end technology. We didn't talk about anything like worker proposals. I think there's a big need of applications, and I think this platform can utilize or give power to certain applications. And with the worker proposal mechanism, we could build those. We don't have to lobby. I invested in one startup, and I was just a very small investor, and they needed a lot of money, and then the two founders spent so much money negotiating, time basically, so much time finding the money, getting the venture capital, negotiating everything, and make the deals. And then they did a first round, second round, third round. I mean, the amount of energy lost in this was amazing. Yeah. So if we can have like an infrastructure where we can more easily finance ideas, and of course we will see some ideas disappear, but I think if you have the right intentions and you already solved a lot of problems. I mean, we have a global distribution system which is called airdrops. I mean, who has that? Who has the infrastructure to do that? Nobody has. we have that. So we can really build some very interesting things.
Yeah, those worker proposals is something I'm really interested in. How far along are we as far as having for someone to be able to submit a worker proposal at this point?
In the EOS Go community, I think there's in the forums there are only 13 posts or something like that. It's very limited yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other cryptos that have the same mechanism, and you already see a couple of interesting worker proposals put forward in that ecosystem. So I'm very looking forward to that. I won some entrepreneurial awards before, and then one of the perks was that I could do jury service. So I was invited to be a member of a jury 2 or 3 times now. Then you read business plans of startups, and that's very interesting to see. And so I see worker proposals like that. I'm looking forward to those worker proposals. For me, it could be the same. Like, okay, this is one group of people that put together something like a specification of something that they want to build, like some concept screens and a story behind it, why, and a description of the team, etc., etc. I'm really looking forward to see some good worker proposals come out, and give feedback on that. Yeah.
And do you think a good worker proposal looks like a business proposal would look for a startup? Is that or?
Yeah. But also, I think we need to figure out a way to workflow that. Maybe, I don't know if it's the correct word, but like very simple worker proposals. Maybe we need a team of people that just signs them off. Like, okay, this is a very good idea, fits between the budget and limits, and maybe we need some. Okay, every region has this budget for marketing incentives, and this budget for this, and this budget for that, and block producers can authorize that for signing it off, and then you have the big worker proposals where, I don't know, 100,000 EOS needs to be requested, and then you have all kinds of stages, and you put it in a bucket. So okay, if you reach this milestone, then we can release this bucket, and if you really have this milestone, we can release that, and we can have a mechanism around that where all kinds of industry experts, whether they come from a legal background like Jetse, or venture capital background, or code developers that can peer review the produced products, produced code. So I think we can build on that together. We need a team of specialized people. There's a lot of issues as well that need to be solved, so that I think we don't envision right now yet. But it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, as people start playing with that worker proposals and start trying to break the system, we'll say I'm sure we'll find a lot of things that we haven't noticed yet about it. But the worker proposals are going to be, a brilliant aspect of all of this, and I can't wait to see how it works. You've seen it work with things like Dash. Really, really interesting projects have popped up. So that's going to be great to see. I'm interested in that. And you said that the EOS Go platform is that the best place for people? If anyone listening has a worker proposal idea, the best place to kind of get that started is EOS Go?
I don't know, to be honest, but I saw a couple of worker proposals on the forum. So I remember that there is a place for that.
Like everything in EOS right now, you're going to have to dig in and do your own research. Sorry, my friends. Yeah.
I was thinking about this, because it's very, because I'm working on, let's say there is another concept, let's say, arising, right, at this moment in time, and they're talking about structuring the communication, for example, and when you're in the block producer, and you have to, let's say, find your information on essentially the Telegram channels, it's just an amazing lot of work, because you have to scroll all those messages, and then so but maybe I was thinking maybe that's also a part of the success formula, right? I don't know, because if you start structuring this communication, maybe the whole thing would just, would go out. I don't know, it's really weird because everybody's complaining a little bit about it, but it works for somehow, right? And so maybe it's just the nice thing about it is that it is such an organic, let's say, process, which makes it work. Because it also filters out automatically, let's say, people who are really willing to do it and the people who are not willing to do it. I don't know, it's just a thought, because it's just interesting. Yeah, I really, yeah. Sorry.
And we need to integrate the Chinese community and the Western community a little bit more, the English language-based community.
Yeah, very good one.
Because the Chinese we have one staff member interfacing with the Chinese community, and the feedback we get from that part of the world. Oh, there was an additional question on what you asked, what we learned so far. What we get back from that is that the Chinese like the Western block producers. They don't trust so much the Chinese block producers. I don't know if why, but well, he said that, so I think we have to bridge this gap between the East and the West. I mean, this is the first technology platform that had investments from both sides, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be that will be an interesting to see how that happens, because that may be even some sort of worker proposal, is some sort of intermediary between the two to explain the to talk between the two, to explain the cultures, to get some crossover, because I've personally have reached out to some of the Chinese block producers just to see if I could get them on the show for an interview, but it hasn't worked yet. But I think that whoever figures out a way to bridge that gap, I think there's a niche there for sure. And it's really important for people to know, because I know nothing about any of the Chinese block producers personally, but I would like to. And I think a lot of people feel that way, and probably vice versa. It probably goes both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good point you added there, Rhett, because maybe some nice insight. Because when we were launching a chain, before that we were doing, let's say, daily rehearsals in the EOS buyers group, and there we also noticed that we had, let's say, a part, let's say, Asian, and then a part, let's say Western, and we had to stop, so we were talking, and then we had one translator who translated everything to the Chinese. Yeah, and back, right? So it was really, really interesting to be part of, because you have this one group talking, then a long pause, you have to wait until it's translated, and then, but it's a very good point, because we need much more integration on that part, because,
yeah, especially because it's very big there. I mean, we did some interviews on YouTube channels, and I think EOS Go, the biggest was 15,000 views, I think. We did one Chinese with 30,000 concurrent viewers, and 730,000 people watched the show. So,
wow,
completely different numbers.
Yeah, that's amazing. We think of what we have. We think of the West and what we're doing with EOS, and it's only half the picture, maybe even less. It's amazing. There's a lot.
Look at how many followers everybody has. I mean, it's very, very tiny still. We need to reach out to the world. They have to learn about this platform, because I mean, even in the West, or almost everywhere, it's very small. The biggest block producer maybe even have 1,500, 2,000, maybe now 3,000. I haven't looked at it for a while, but maybe 3,500 followers. I mean, very tiny.
Yeah, it's we're right on the cusp where, very beginning, where it's going to be interesting to see how this year pans out for the block producers, for the EOS token holders, for the media, for everyone. This is going to be quite a year. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Well, did you guys have anything that we talked about the voting and the worker proposals? I think that's important. Was there anything else we glossed over? Any big parts of EOS here?
Well, I really would like Jetse to maybe comment on, because the whole constitution thing is not finalized yet. And I mean, Dan is really into this like no violence attitude, and he sees the constitution as like a peace treaty. Maybe is that the right wording? How you see that, yet? Because very interesting I think, for the audience to talk about, to listen to.
It is. We talked about surprises, and to me, I didn't. It's not. It's not a surprise. We lost you.
Yeah.
Hey, you're back. Okay. Don't hope it didn't scare you away. No, I mean, we were all talking about decentralized governance, decentralized community. The community is going to do this, or the community is going to do that. And now I'm actually working with that. To me, the biggest surprise is that it doesn't seem there is no central authority now, which kind of is in the decentralized principle, but then being a lawyer and being used to how things go in society, you wonder who makes all these rules, and I don't know. So we're kind of just waiting for someone to come up with either Dan's idea, but then is Dan Larimer going to tell us what the Constitution is going to be like? Because that if he does so, he's the central authority, and there's just no one there. So I'm very in a way excited to be at this birth of a way of constructing a rule set for the community that I don't think has ever been done before. And having said that, in the current constitution, there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to work on to make it better, because there's a million ways of looking at it. But we're trying to do something on a blockchain and constitute a community that works independently or seamlessly independently of the outside world. But there will always be a connection between the two. And one of the biggest questions in the community, in the governance issues, one of the biggest governance issues right now is how do we acknowledge that relationship between me as a living being and an on-chain arbitrator that's going to grant someone else my EOS, and can I go to an outside court, and if you tell me not to, can an outside court overrule that rule? It's all in a drafting kind of process, and somewhere someone must be typing the stuff in something, but I don't know where. And I want to know, and I want to be there. I want to sit next to this person and help, So I'm trying to do that on the Telegram Gov channel, basically, and try and share my input with the community, and hope all the best of it. So when it comes to the Constitution right now, there's a couple of issues that I think we really ought to debate further. But
what are those?
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you're right. You need to start somewhere, and they've put a ton of time into where we're at. And I think that amending the Constitution along the way is going to be important. What's the main kind of sticking point you're seeing with the Constitution right now, or what issues would you like to debate?
Right now, to me, the biggest issue is the competence of the arbitrator. Are they legally? Is it legally possible that they decide the case? Some people haven't even signed on the Constitution. So we had this before we reached the 15%. There were people that had got a false private key. They were kind of trapped into it. Boyd talked a little about it. you want to remedy that. But if there, at that point in time, arbitration wasn't functioning, so since there's no authority, who is going to help these people? So that's basically there's not one bit in the Constitution that is that stands out as being totally off. I don't think so. I think the basic ideas and the way Dan has been drafting this, it's all pointing in a good direction, and it has to grow kind of organically. But we have to have something, and I'm wondering if that's going to be the community, to correct wrong. Right now, for instance, and that's maybe, and I stop when that, because it's legal talk and maybe not too interesting for the viewer, but it's like if there's something wrong in the community, for instance, a block producer that is of a bad standing but has a lot of votes, and there's really no one that can do anything about it right now because there's no central authority. So that's, in a way, that's a good thing, but we have to wait if the community actually steps up and stop that kind of behavior, or let it go past and we end up with block producers that are not functioning. So that's basically I think one of the dilemmas we run into these days.
Yeah, because it's with no central authority, the community as a whole is going to have to step up and kind of enforce these rules, and then and how do we see that happening? Do they actually do that?
Who is going to throw the first stone?
Yeah. Well, I got to meet, or I had Thomas Cox on the show, and I saw him at the Tulip conference in San Francisco recently, and he seems very ready to throw the first stone. And not only that, he wants to nail the crow to a post, and so all kinds of stuff. So I think we've got a stone thrower. So we'll see if he can lead the charge.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, but the Constitution is. I mean, we could have an hour-long show on the Constitution. I mean, it's such a great. You go into that channel, and I go in every once in a while. I've got 3,000 backed up messages, and I start reading through them for give it 20 minutes or so. And the Constitution is one of the great differences between EOS and a lot of other cryptocurrencies that's going to really evolve over time. It will be interesting.
Definitely. Yeah.
Cool. So Constitution, the voting, the workers' proposals, and what sets EOS Amsterdam apart. We've covered a lot there. Anything else you guys wanted to touch on? All right. Well, we end. Also, we have more show possibilities in the future. So as things develop down the road, I'd love to have you guys back on. Boy, if your son is near there, you want to bring him on. You want to bring him onto the show? Yeah, bring him on.
Sure.
I think you wanted this 5 minutes.
Kom eens eventjes. Heel eventjes. He's coming. But what I would really love to do is show our wallet when it's done.
Okay.
Right? Or let's say, or maybe to present it. We would really love it. This is a little director, right?
Well, you can watch yourself on YouTube later.
He's already streaming. Huh?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he's already streaming. He's got his own channel?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're working on that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, well, when you guys put some work into the wallet, or as it develops more, then I'd love to have you back on and show what's going on with the wallet, and any other new developments. I'd love to have you guys back on. But there we have it. Well, cheers to you, my crypto friends. Thanks for being here with us today. Again, EOS Amsterdam, and look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Cheers.
Look forward to seeing you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Brandon, thank you.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is just